So I hope nobody was inconvenienced to parking downstairs. I hope there was enough room for everybody. Looks like we got a really good nice roof tonight. So do we have any visitors here for the first time? No visitors? I know we got visitors. Okay, stand up, say where you're from.
Well, I guess I just became a member, so I don't know if that counts as a visitor.
So you're a new member tonight?
Brad Thompson, Bradley Thompson. I moved here from upstate New York a year and a half ago. Work as an engineer, currently looking for work, but I spend most of my time at American Fork Canyon looking for gold, so I'm looking for better places. That's all.
Awesome. Glad to have you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll just visitors first time. No? How about new members? I'll talk to, No? Just the one? Just there? Oh, there's one.
I'm Brett Wheeler, just from Mill Creek, so just checking it out.
Awesome. Well, I hope it's a good experience for everybody. Hopefully it will be. Okay, last month we had 84 in attendance. I think we might have surpassed that. And combined with the Gem and Mineral Show, we brought on $4,094. So that was totally awesome. So good job. I don't know what can I say. Everybody keep up the good work. You know what I mean? Okay. We still got bed books for sale, $20 a pop, Spanish way bills. Number two, please refrain from everybody having their cell phones ring and watch mine ring. And if we need to talk about anything, one thing, just go out in the hallway and chill the county out there. Okay, everybody knows the memberships have been raised up to $40 a year, and that is just to cover the operating costs of the club, which everything has gone outrageously high. So I hate to do it, but we had to do it just to cover the bottom expenses, what we have to cover. So, okay. Any questions? Anything? No. Good. Okay. So I mentioned this last meeting. The problem with the gold bags have been solved. Everything's from Kayla. We've got 20 bags left over from the show. And I think we got another 12 bags on the table. So that gives us 32 bags. And I'd really like to see all those sold tonight. That would really be awesome. I think, are they 40 a bag? Less?
For the blue ones?
Yeah.
40, yep.
Yeah, 40 a bag.
The black ones are 60.
60.
Which one?
The black ones, hold that up again here. Those are 60.
Those are 60, okay. And a lot of this was placed in the bags before the big jump in gold price. So you're getting, in some of the bigger bags, probably maybe close to a gram. And I think a gram of gold right now with the gold price is like 79, 82 bucks a gram. And it's like 106 or 7 for penny weight. So yeah, it's up there. So whatever's in those bags, you guys are going to be getting a really good deal on. So anyway. And of course, we got all the new stuff on the table, all the hats and shirts, all the signs, the prospecting books, blah, blah, blah. And basically what it does, if you want something, if it's not, most likely it's on the table, ask for it, and he'll get it, because a lot of the stuff is in the boxes, because you can't bring anything out. Okay, number 5, here's kind of a really hefty one. Okay, the 2024 claims guide. I finally got everything back from the BLM. We got all the hard paperback from Alan, actually the plat maps and the topo maps of the claims. So between now and next meeting, I will be working, getting those 24s up to date with all the new information in them, with all these new claims, and there is 2 new claims that are going into the mining guide, and I've got them listed here. One's the last chance plaster, and the other one is the riding tree plaster. So they put up next to each other up on our Wide West Gulch up there in Idaho. And Wide West is just kind of north, a little bit northeast of Mountain Home. You gotta go into Mountain Home, then you go up to that area. But get the full details from Dan. He used to be the claims guy. And so we're gonna get all the really good directions how to get up there. And so next month, I'm gonna have to pass one of these around for a sign-up list. If you guys are going on the outing next month, the June outing up to Idaho, please put your name on it. I didn't scribble outing on it yet, but whoever wants to grab it, scribble outing on it, June outing. Put your name on it, put your phone number, in case something weird happens, and, okay. And then, who else going up to Severe at the end of the month? 1, 2, we got 3, 4. Okay, so who's gonna be? Are you gonna be the head on that one?
So now there's questions on where people are going to meet before they head down. Is it going to be Friday, Saturday?
Most of there's some folks that'll probably go down Friday and camp, but most of it's
Some will
Saturday.
go down Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. And does everybody know where the mill site is down on the Little Severe Claims?
Why don't we have everybody that wants to go, not sure where they're going tonight, write their name and phone number on a piece of paper, and we'll set up maybe a contact to meet on Saturday for those that are going down on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll have to get another.
It's right there on the corner.
We
Is that for the Idaho or?
That's the outing.
That's the outing.
Oh, one for June and one for
Yeah.
This weekend.
this weekend?
Yeah, one's for Little Severe and one is for the Idaho one.
When's the Idaho one?
I think I got, what is it, the 20, it's the weekend right after the meeting. I think it's like the 27th, 28th, or 26th, something like that. But it's the weekend right after the meeting.
It'll
21st,
be the 21st,
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah.
That's Friday, Saturday.
Okay, 21st, 22nd, you guys got it. This way it gives everybody one more meeting to sign up for that outing. So, okay,
The 21st, 22nd June.
okay, number 6 pretty much covers the same thing. Okay,
Bill,
yeah.
real quick, where can people get the information on these outings? Is it on the website? Is it on Facebook? Do we have anything here?
The outings listed on the website.
Website and yeah, I mean, as soon as we know what's going on, we post something on the page and everybody,
The outing schedule for the year is listed on the website under the outings schedule.
yeah. Facebook, I try to put as much,
The weekend after.
yeah, information about the outings on Facebook, but we gotta be careful on that because everybody sees it, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay, last part, which is kind of important, well, not last, but, okay, we're gonna have some big changes, to the website. And this is basically for, the members areas on there. What it's gonna be, you're gonna log into the website. You'll be required to type in a password. And then once you're in, then you get all of the over-the-top things that an actual paid member is entitled to. It'll actually show the claims on that position, on that spot, and everything else. So it'll be pretty thorough to what everybody needs, and everybody needs to look at samples and everything, next month, whatever. Okay, Rick's gonna be the speaker sometime July, late August, and he's gonna have the premiere of his new book, Rock on Utah. So it's a pretty hefty book. It's almost 700 pages, and it should be totally awesome. Okay, without ado, I am going to introduce Mr. Ryan Larkin. He has been around for a long time. He has done lectures at the club in the past. And so, yeah, he's a good guy, good friend, blah, blah, blah. And his title for his lecture will be Efficiencies of Different Type of Prospecting and the Best Type for Utah. Best type for Utah is go to Nevada or Arizona. So you probably get a lot of gold that way. But yeah, it is what it is. You know, we live in Utah, and a lot of people don't realize what's really cool about Utah is most of the gold that you find in Utah, it's really high carat. So, there's a lot, but it's, yeah, our carat runs really high when you find it in its natural state, which is like way cool. Okay, anyway, so I will turn my time over to Ryan, give him the undivided attention, and hopefully we'll all learn something tonight. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Larkin. I'm from Kaysville. Lived here pretty much my whole life. My wife and kids are back here in the third row over here from the support. And they actually go prospecting with me quite a bit. We were actually up dredging in Idaho City, well actually above Idaho City, between there and Atlanta this last year, and they actually got in the water. My wife got underwater with me, and we used the hookah systems to find quite a bit of gold up there on Buddy's claim. But I'm going to be talking about all the different types of prospecting here in Utah that work really well. But I'm also going to be talking about ones that some people may or may not have used up to this point, and talk about the efficiencies of each type and where you're going to be able to find the best gold without spending the most money to do it. All right, so everybody really, I feel, usually starts out with the gold pan. And gold prospecting starts with gold pan and ends with the gold pan. You have to start out with something, and when you're finishing off whatever you found, you always end up finishing off with the gold pan and make sure you got every last little speck out of there. Sluice boxes, that's usually the second way to go. That's where people go next because it's a pretty cheap investment. Then on to gold dredges, metal detectors, high bankers, and dry washers. It's a little more expensive to hit those other pieces of equipment. They're not quite as easy to get around, but I'm going to talk about each one of those. All right, gold panning. Typically, the best gold pan to start with, and the one that the studies have been done, which one's the most efficient for just a general prospecting, and that's usually a 14-inch pan. Personally, I like using anything that's blue. For me, I can differentiate black sands, the garnet sands, and regular sands in blue better than I can green, purple, any of the other colors out there. So I typically go starting with a 14-inch pan and go down from there, and you have a finishing pan after that. Most pans can hold about 15 pounds if you're using a 14-inch pan. You're not able to move a lot of material with a gold pan if you're just doing that on your own. It's good for going out and trying to look for spots to really gold prospect in, but you're not going to get a lot of gold in a day if you have to work 15 pounds or 14 pounds at a time. And it usually takes 15 to 20 minutes to work a pan down and finish it all off. So at the end of the day, you're only going to be able to move maybe 180 pounds of gold-bearing material. And past that, it's a tough way to go if you're trying to fill a vial. You've got really high recovery with gold pan. It kind of depends on the gold panner. Some people are better at it, some people are novices, and The better you get with it, the more efficient you're going to get with your gold pan. You won't lose very much if you do it right. With sluice box, now you can get a lot more production out of a sluice box. And there's two ways to do it. You can just put your sluice right in the middle of the stream and shovel directly to it, or you can classify it. Now, classifying takes more time, but you're going to actually be more efficient if you classify because you're not throwing big rocks in there that disturb the water flow going through the sluice. Personally, that's usually how I do it. I don't shovel straight to my sluice box, even though I have a Keen A51. It's a big one. But with that big one, also, you got to make sure the big rocks don't get in there, because anytime you start redirecting into the water flows, that means you're going to lose gold, because it's going to push it down out of the first riffles. And typically, all your gold's going to be found up top in the first 4 riffles. And if you're finding it in the bottom riffles, you either have your flow rate wrong, or you did something wrong, got some big rocks in there that pushed it out of the first riffles and down to the very end. Or maybe you have too little water going through it, and it's getting clogged up and riding on top of the other dirt. Now, the next type, dredging, that's where everybody wants to end. I've done all the types of prospecting out there. Like I said, my wife and I and a couple of friends were up in Idaho this last year. We had a 4 and a 5 inch dredge up there, 2 hookahs on each one, so we go down and somebody can be moving rocks while the other person dredges. Super efficient, but it takes an entire day to get the dredge down from where you're storing it into the water and set up. So you lose a day there, and you also lose a day on the way out trying to get your dredge back out of the water and back up to your trailer and haul it away. So you have to have a long time if you're going to be doing something like that. Plus, you gotta have a few people. There's no way any of these dredges we were using you could actually pull in and out of the water by yourself. Now, if you're looking at, the dredges go anywhere from 1.5 inches all the way up to 20-something inches. And with an 1.5 inch dredge, you're gonna spend most of your time unclogging it. And this is just from my personal experience. We had a 2-inch dredge for a bit. My buddy had that, and I had a 3-inch, and his was clogged twice as much as mine was. Now, with dredges, every single inch you go up in diameter, you basically double your production. It's just a little shy of doubling production, but you're close. So if you ever can, get the largest dredge you can, that you can still move around by yourself or with a friend if you have those to go out and prospect with. But dredges are super high production, and it's actually pretty easy work once you get it all set up. You're in the bottom of a river, and the hardest part is pretty much moving big rocks out of the way. And there's a lot of those down there, especially when you start getting deep. We were down to about 12, 14 feet in the last hole we were in. And when you start getting down that deep, we actually had to stop and use the ATV we had up on the side. And we had a big mesh thing with chains around it. We would hook around each one of the big rocks and then hook that to a chain to the ATV we had with the winch. And we used the winch to pull those rocks out of the way because some of those were hundreds of pounds a piece. And even the ATV had a hard enough time that we couldn't actually just pull them all the way out. We had to put them kind of up toward the top in a place that they weren't going to fall in on us again, and just hope for the best. I have been trapped before doing dredging. I was doing some long arm dredging. Actually, it was about the same area. It was by Idaho City. And I got caught under a rock, and I was all by myself. That was pretty scary. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the river up to my neck, and my arm's caught underneath one of the rocks, and you don't want to be in a position like that, especially when you're by yourself and nobody really knows exactly where you're at. It's always best to go with a friend, especially if you're getting in deeper water, just in case something ever goes wrong. But, so dredges have low portability, typically, unless you're going with backpack dredges, because you're typically dealing with, you have to carry a compressor that's going to push the water pump, or a water pump on this one, and the water pumps are pretty heavy. And so those are usually a separate unit. But you have high production. In a day, you can go through a lot, 87 pounds an hour at least. And that's after moving all the big rocks out of the way and sending the big rocks through the dredge. Now we're gonna move on to the next one. So, gold metal detectors. I don't know if anybody's seen my YouTube channel, it's Rocky Mountain Ryan. And I do a lot of metal detecting, a lot of prospecting. But with metal detector, it's a little more difficult process. A lot of the gold detectors are pretty expensive.
What's your website?
Rocky Mountain Ryan. It's on YouTube. So with a gold metal detector, your basic gold detectors are going to start around $1,000 for one that's going to find everything. So the investment's pretty big, and typically you're not going to find anything less than 0.5 grams with one of those, unless you get into the really big metal detectors that are really expensive, the $3,000 to $10,000 detectors, and then they're going to find a little bit deeper and smaller stuff. But gold metal detecting it's tough. So if you're buying a detector just as your main prospecting tool, that's a rough, expensive way to go, and you're going to spend a lot of hours swinging and find a lot of lead weights. That's what I found. Yeah, there's so much lead out there, and lead and gold sound pretty close to the same on a detector, and it's hard to differentiate because all the shot that's used as lead weights on there, it's all over. Especially if you've been dredging before, you know how many lead weights you pull out of your pans at the end of the day, and it's a lot, pounds of them. Now, high bankers are really good here in Utah. We have a lot of small streams, and they're in gold-bearing areas. I know even down in the Richfield area on the Little Sevier, they're great down there because the stream flows pretty good sometimes of the year. A lot of times of the year, it's not flowing too great, so you have to dam it up and hope you can get a good enough dam to get enough water. But with a good high banker, you can pull that water a long way away and get up on the high bars. And the high bars, those are pretty rich because a lot of people these days don't usually work the high bars. They work right down in the river because it concentrates obviously lower, but as that stream's moving down, it's left deposits all the way down as it's gone down along the sides. So working those high banks with a high banker, those are some of the most rich deposits you can find. We had a claim up in by the Atlanta area, and we worked some of the high banks up there, and we actually found more gold in a lot of those deposits than we did per hour down in the river. Now it's a little harder work than when you're with dredge. Dredge, you're basically laying there with a big vacuum, just floating on the bottom, just letting the machine do the work. The high banker, you're back to doing some pretty tough work, picks and axes and shovels. And that's pretty hard. I don't care who you are, I don't care how young you are, it wears you out. If you do 8 hours of it, you're gonna feel it for days. Now, high bankers, you're getting sometimes 90% efficiency because the best thing about a high banker is it already takes the rocks out for you, so you don't have to classify. Most of the high bankers have a good grizzly system at the top that's going to push all those bigger rocks out and spit them out in the end, and you're only getting good gold-bearing material that's going to go down through your sluice box. And with that, 90% efficiency, you can attain that if you have the right setup and the right system, especially if you end up using a long tom. We usually end up adding the Keen A52 on the end of our high banker, just so anything else that the high banker didn't catch may have gotten knocked out from us throwing too heavy a dirt in the top and gets rocked around a little bit. Usually gets caught in the A52 because the A52 we don't hook up to the high banker. It's its own separate system that it's not connected to the upper system. And so even if you rock the top box, you're not rocking the A52 down below. All right, so the last one I want to talk about is dry washers. Living in Utah, there's a lot of places that don't have any water at all. And you can take water with you out to the desert in one of the, I think called a Gold Fox. They're a self-contained unit with a storage bin underneath, and you can add water to it and run it through it. Or you can do a gold wheel, but those are pretty low production because you're going shovelful by shovelful, and little scoop by little scoop. And it takes a long time. With dry washers, the idea is processing as much material as you possibly can. With processing that material, the more material, everybody knows, the more material you process, the more gold you're gonna get in the end. So it's all about speed and efficiency. Now you never wanna overload one of the dry washers. Dry washers are notorious for packing the riffles full just because as you start out at the top and you're starting to dig down, it might be just really dry dirt. You get down 6, 8, 12 inches, all of a sudden it gets a little wet. And a lot of times what we have to do is we throw out big tarps. I prefer using dark tarps. I usually go out and buy black or brown. absorbs more heat. It'll dissipate all the moisture in the soil, get it out of there as quick as we can, and we end up shoveling all of our stuff onto tarps next to our dry washer once we get to wet soil, letting it dry out there, and then from there, putting it back through our dry washer. So you're kind of double doing the work, but in the end, if you have super dry dirt, I mean, you have to be able to hold the dirt in your hand. If you can grip it and it clumps, way too wet for a dry washer. You need to wait until you grip it and it doesn't go, and when you blow it, it blows out of your hand. If you can get it to that point, dry washers are good, but still not as efficient as the other options out there. Dry washers, they work on vibration. They're not working with water to try to hold things behind the riffles. And for the people who haven't used a dry washer, the riffles are a reverse riffle. A lot of people make a mistake because they're used to using sluice boxes and dredges where all the riffles flow with the water down. With a dry washer, the idea is to have the riffles flowing up, so everything heavy catches behind it and can't work its way up over the lip to get down to the next one. Now, like I was saying with the dry or wet dirt, if you have too much wet dirt, those riffles are going to pack full, and the gold's going to hit that wet packed dirt behind it, and it's just going to keep riding right up over the top and into the bottom. And what we'll do a lot of times, we'll take the dirt that's in our discard pile at the end, and we'll take samples from time to time, take it over to water, and pan those down. We pan those down on purpose just because we want to make sure that we're not losing anything. We may have had the dry washer set up with too high a speed of air going through to create vibration. We may have had it too steep an angle, we may have had it too shallow an angle. So we'll end up going through our dirt a couple of times during the day just to make sure that everything's set up and we're still finding stuff. Now also with dry washers, you have to clean those out quite a bit more than you do a sluice box or anything that's wet. With wet material, it's constantly moving stuff out for you. If you get any wet material in a dry washer, it doesn't want to move out for a long time until the air that's blowing up through the bottom ends up drying it out, but it could be a while before that wet dirt moves back out. And I don't care where you go. I've been down in Arizona working through the caliche and still find wet dirt in the middle of the desert when it hasn't rained. You get behind a rock or you get down to the bottom of an old stream bed where the moisture can sit behind and sit in the shade, and you'll find moisture in those areas. Now, I do have, for some reason, just one sec. Gotta make one phone call here. Let me make a phone call really fast. We may have somebody joining us here. Just gotta make sure he's on. You ready to sign in? Okay, jump on. All right. Thanks, man. Might take him just a second to. So who I'm trying to connect with here? You're on? Let me sign up here and get you up on the screen. Sorry, I got him on my phone, but I don't have him up here on. Hey, I might have to send you a new link so I can sign in on my computer.
If you click over on the right, it shows Ryan Larkin Zoom meeting.
Oh, there we go. Let me see. This might have pulled me up. All right, who we have here on the phone here and on Zoom? This is Casey Morgan. He's on Gold Rush. He was on Dave Turns Gold. He was on The Dirt and Whitewater. He looks a little different now. The guy went for a little more clean look. I don't know what the heck he was thinking. Man, you need to get your big beard back. Let me put this down here so people can hear you.
Okay.
All right, we can hear you now.
All right. Here I am. All right.
Does anybody have any questions for Casey?
Did you bring enough chicken for all of us?
Did you bring enough chicken for everybody?
Well, going to Buffalo Wild Wings, I was Buffalo Wild Wings, and I didn't bring enough for you.
Is he still mining up in Valdez?
Are you still mining in Valdez?
Yep, right now,
Currently.
Oh.
currently. Hold on a second. Let me eat this chicken wings. Valdez sucks. I'll tell you that right now, it's not what you think. It was okay, but it was just, dude, if you're into living in rain nonstop, that's the place for you. Dirty gold too, I mean, it's like, it's purity isn't all that. So.
Now, how was your experience on Whitewater? I know that was kind of, I watched some of the seasons and Whitewater was pretty rough.
Oh man, it was so outstanding.
You guys found a ton of gold, you came home rich.
Found 75 million ounces of gold. No. We didn't find, I don't even remember seeing, I don't even remember after like 4 months even seeing an ounce of gold. Maybe an ounce and a half. And there was like 6 guys diving in rotation, 5 days a week. What's that tell you? Put that in a little vial and add it up and see what your income is. So I think everyone can figure out how they continue to keep doing that.
Flip around things.
I got Colorado, Montana, and all that.
I'm flipping you around so you can see everybody. You don't have to look at me anymore.
Oh, this looks like a GPA meeting. Is this like GPAA? What is it?
No, this is Utah Gold Prospectors.
Okay, so down in Arizona, we have road runners, we have, GPAA, so that's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good group.
You guys have a lot of unique gold. You know what? That's one state that if you think about it, we all went around from, where do we go? We were in places like Washington, we explored California, on the gold show, one corner or another. We never really heard about Utah being on the Gold Rush series.
That's because we keep it a secret.
Yeah, they say we're keeping it a secret here from you guys.
Yeah. Say what?
I said, we try to keep it a secret from you guys. We don't want Gold Rush here.
Probably no, because I mean, well, yeah, remember, even if they come in there and mine it, it's still gonna be all, everything will be Amazon. You know, it won't be some mess, but it just brings in a lot of people after the show shows up on TV. They start tearing apart the area. It's not so much that we do it, it's the people that come in afterwards.
Did they get paid for being on the show?
Did you get paid for being on the show?
Oh, absolutely.
Don't you see that monster of a house he's got behind him?
And we have that support.
I mean, he's rich enough he can eat Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings, look, I got to go too. Now, I think somebody wants to know those questions, but I think you guys can do the math. If you really look at, certain shows and you wonder how they're just driving around and they're finding a couple ounces of gold, and how some of these teams show up with a whole season, that's 4 months worth of work, and then they have 50 ounces of gold. Well, everyone can do math on fuel. Everyone can do math. You already all know the truth.
Do the producers make you guys stop filming at a certain points that you can like reshoot or reenact certain things, or so that they can get better camera angles of whatever truck breakdown or, you know, whatever drama is going on, whatever argument you guys are having out on the river? They tell you guys to try to, you know, beat each other up and whatnot?
Did you hear that?
They never tell you to beat each other up, but they definitely stopped us, and that's what they're paying for. So if you guys think about that, if we're just, like, there'd be days I drive that dozer 8-10 hours a day and they wouldn't say nothing. I see the camera guys going around me, and there's a camera inside the cab with me. But then all of a sudden they need a scene and they say, hey, can you come over here and say, oh my God, this is I'm gonna fall off a cliff with this bulldozer. Now, and that didn't really happen. I mean, there were certain situations. The reason they do that isn't so much because they just can't wait for the drama, as they do have to tell you guys the story as you're watching it. So certain scenarios, they create them so that it makes sense to the viewer. Because if they just turn on the camera and did no editing, you guys would be asleep in about 25 minutes. Yeah. But here's the weird part: is you're trying to mine gold and have someone in your face with a camera the whole time. And I don't care who you are, it changes the dynamic of how you feel about gold mining all of a sudden. Because now you're worrying about all kinds of things. I mean, and I've seen guys who seem super normal, and you put 3 of them together and that camera turns on and they turn into animals towards each other. It's like a competition that they don't, subconsciously, they don't even know they're doing. Now, the people I've met that were really cool, Parker was pretty cool, I met him. I've heard different versions of what people think of him that have worked with him, but I mean, I don't think you get ahead by being a nice guy in that kind of business.
You ever meet Freddie Dodge?
Huh?
You ever meet Freddie Dodge?
Did you meet Freddie Dodge?
Yeah, Freddie Dodge is a nice guy. I've hung out with him. He stayed in our camp when we were in Colorado. He was there, I think, the week before Jesse died. And that whole thing with Jesse, people don't really realize that was pretty traumatic, because I worked with him every day, 6 days a week. And you get to know somebody year after year after year, you get to know them pretty good, you know? So, it definitely puts you through some stuff. Freddie Dodge is a really nice guy. Juan is a super nice guy. Yeah, those guys, and actually Juan is really funny. They don't really get to show you guys much about that, but he's a really funny guy. He was, you know, I walked into his camper and he didn't know him. He's like, I mean, I knew him from watching him on shows, like you guys do, when I'm on that series. Like, I was watching him, and he's like, hey, come to my camper. He said, you want to try out my George Foreman grill? And I'm like, you're what? And so, he was so proud of his George Foreman grill. You go through each other up there.
Now, how about Dustin? How'd you like working with Dustin Hurt?
So the thing that probably shock a lot of you, Dustin was never really the problem, it was Fred. And that's probably gonna stick weird for some of you. I thought it was always Dustin was the problem, because I'd watched the show before I went on it, right? And then all of a sudden I was on the series, and then you're thinking, oh man, Dustin's the problem. And then all of a sudden you realize his dad was the one aggravating him the whole time. And they had a very strange relationship. He didn't ever call his dad Dad. I tell Dustin, I'm like, hey Dustin, your dad's over there, and he would just pretty much blow me off until I told him that Fred's over there. It was super weird. But I think there was an estrangement between those two. And when I worked with Fred, he was, I had one other guy with me. He was from Oregon. This was, had to be 6-7 years ago, and Fred was constantly making us crazy with things he was wanting. That just, he was very difficult to work with. Fred and I were friends for about a good 6-7 years, And then all of a sudden, as soon as I started filming with Fred, because Fred's the one that actually brought me to TV first. As soon as I started filming with him, he wasn't the nice guy I thought he was. I mean, he was nice at times, but there's a different stigma with people that work in TV. Now, either you go sweet or sour in that business, and I've seen the best of people and the worst of people in it. You know, there's ups and downs. I mean, there's moments where I still have fun with them and stuff, but it wasn't always easy. But him and his dad did not have a real good relationship. They had a unique relationship, let's put it like that.
Hey, can you ask him if Todd Hoffman ever struck it big in Nome?
Todd Hoffman ever strike it big and Nome?
You know what? I should write Todd and ask him. That's a really, you guys wanna see me go mine with Todd Hoffman? I mean, why not?
As long as you don't try to lower a dredge down into a big old hole and try to dredge.
You know, see Todd, you know, people laugh at that guy, but he's the one that really got all that going. He made all the big money. I heard he made millions of dollars off of his TV contract. They don't do that anymore because back then cable was king, and now you have streaming, which really put a lot of people out of work, believe it or not. It created jobs and it took away jobs, if that makes sense. So the big days of cable money when like you were on a hit TV show, because I was sitting on a #1 TV show. I wasn't part of all the big cutbacks and stuff that happened when the writer strikes were on, but if you got in early, you did pretty good. But like a lot of these people, I've heard, and I don't know how all true it is, but I don't doubt it. But I've heard there's people working for $1,000 a month on TV now, just desperate to be famous. Don't quit your day job, right?
I actually just got approached by a TV show, and they were telling me that in the beginning, it's volunteer. They'll film you, but it's volunteer. It's that one I was telling you about. It's all volunteer, and then if they get you back for a second season, then they can talk about actually paying you.
Yeah, it's all volunteer until what they're basically doing is they're just trying to scam people into filming their claim, and then we'll be back, don't worry. And no. Here's the reality. Todd Hoffman, he did the whole show, got it all going. And I was really into mining back then, so it was really exciting when Gold Rush came out. And then, I mean, I remember I was so pumped up by the 4th season of Gold Rush. I mean, I think a lot of people were, because it was showing that it could be done by the average Joe. You know, that was a big thing. That someone could go out there and make something out of nothing. Now, back when Todd started, there wasn't any money in the TV, I don't think. I think they really were risking it. I do know that there was a fight between James Harness and Jimmy Dorsey that they had, or I think something like that. And they both raced to Haiti, call the police on each other or something, like some fight they had. But no, Todd really started everything. Without Todd, it would have never ever happened for probably anybody. I think gold mining was kind of becoming a lost art, and Todd really helped get that going. Don't get me wrong, there's all these GPA gold groups. You guys have your own meetings, and I used to go to all those meetings. My wife and I would go to, we did the raffle, we'd win nuggets at them. Still the best little machine I think I've ever used to clean gold. If you're gonna dig in a placer creek, it's still that gold cube. That's been the most effective tool I've ever used for cleaning gold, for testing ground.
Have you used it with the high banker attachment?
I have the high banker and I have the trommel attachment on mine.
Which one's better?
I like the trommel because I don't have to mix it with my hand, and when you're working in cold creeks trying to test, you're just shoveling right in. So you gotta calculate how many pans. You know, I figured 3 full shovelfuls and 1 pan on those big super sluice pans, and then we would gauge. So if I ran 3 pans through it, and then I took the pan out, and if I saw 20 colors, we were mining it. Or even actually 12 to 20 colors, we were mining it. And once I verified that, then I go back to Dave Turn and say, hey, bring all let me go grab an excavator. I'd grab an excavator or all truck or whatever. You go over there and start moving it over. We only saw, here's the other question, I think, and I don't, how many nuggets did we ever see? I saw a couple weird, little small, I mean, you know, 1/8 of an ounce in the sluice box at the end of the day. Pretty small, we never saw anything big. And if it did, we probably buried it. It's just, you can't, when you're trying to get nuggets, that's a whole different game. It would have been nice to have a nugget trap off the back of off that machine, but we didn't have it.
There any more questions out here?
Yeah, I'm curious, how much he's, doing in Arizona still.
How much mining are you doing in Arizona?
I have one mine that if I ever got a chance to do it, I'd mine it, it's out by Wickenburg, but that's as far as I'll go with it. And that would take a tremendous amount of investment to do it. I'm not a fool, I know gold's sitting at over 2,400 an ounce right now, but then you also gotta remember how much fuel you gotta spend, equipment and all this and that, and everything's a little risky, right? Cause you're also in an election year, and the public's panicking, you don't know if those prices are gonna hold. But, you know, if I projected that gold's so undervalued, gold should be sitting anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 an ounce. That's what it should be for what it takes to get it out of the ground. But I mean, what do you guys think?
Questions?
I got a question for you guys. How many of you have actually tried to go get on or apply for one of these gold series?
I try to Parker a little bit on Reddit, and I'm buddies with Parker on Reddit, and so sometimes he'll come and say hi or whatever, say something on there, some of the fans or some of the guys on there will have, you know, talking metrics or, you know, things like that, and then I tried to proposition him to ring me up to metal detect for him, and he said that, he's got a whole crew of prospectors, and I think his girlfriend that he sees, Tyler, I think she's in charge of all metal detecting in Parker's claims, so. I'm sure he probably got all that covered up there.
Listen, you try to get on, you try to work for Parker or you?
I tried to work for Parker, I sent him emails and stuff on Reddit, I happen to know who he is on Reddit, and,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know the way he does it, but I'm sure I've heard different rumors if he was fair and generous. And I've heard different rumors on that, but I mean, I'm sure working for him, you probably get a standard salary. I don't know if there's any gold split.
Right.
But I'm sure it's not too shabby considering the conditions we're about to live in.
Yeah.
Up in Valdez, we lived for a couple days in one of those old remember Exxon Valdez? Remember that spill? So we got up there. I've never been to Valdez. I've been to Haynes when I was filming on Whitewater. We got to Valdez. It's weird. First of all, it was raining, so all the puddles in the ground, even on the dirt lots or whatever, not even up by the mine, you see an oil ring on everything. And that's not from that disaster, it's just coming out of the shale rock everywhere. There's a lot of petroleum there somewhere. But we stayed in those man camps from the late 80s that the government FEMA set up. Really weird, small beds, but they had all these camps set up for that disaster that happened in Valdez. It's just a big fishing town. I'm sorry, it's not even big. I would say between Haynes and Valdez, they're pretty equally matched as far as size goes, but they're both fishing ports. Now here's something that sounds weird. By like midsummer in Alaska, you see the snow on the mountain. Here's the ocean, here comes a cruise ship in the Haynes, and then here's people swimming in the ocean with the snow on the mountains, just super weird. The water somehow was warm enough to swim in, my mind wasn't wrapping around it, and there's a massive glacier with, you know, I don't know. I'm picturing the temperature of Titanic water. The other funny thing that people say is when they get off the boats, they're all get off these ships, they're all, hey, look at those tall mountains, what's the elevation? And I'm like, sea level. was thrown off by it too, because you live in the lower 48, you live in the lower 48, you go to Colorado, you're at 7,000, 8,000, the peaks are at 15,000, but you go to Alaska, now if you go to Alaska, it's weird, the mountain is 3,000 feet tall and goes right into the ocean, there's no beach on a lot of them. But I've gone towards that Denali National Park, and there is like Mount McKinley, some of them are like 19, 20,000 feet tall, so there are some mountains that are that big, and it is overwhelming the size of that place.
How's the mosquitoes and the bugs that are there trying to mine, are you just getting eaten alive the whole season?
So the camera crew had to wear netting on their faces and hands the whole time. This was the weird part. So I live in Arizona, so when it rained, or we have snow in our mountains here too, obviously. But whenever it rains, snows, whatever, the bugs, they disappear, right? Not in Alaska. They're like, the mosquitoes are like, oh yeah? That's nothing. And they get more aggressive the harder it rains. It's so weird. I'm like, yeah, like, it's like, and everything up there is, you pretty much feel like you're stepped back in the 1970s or 80s of America. You do feel like there's a time gap. And I'm sure some of you have been up there, you know what I'm talking about. You feel like you kind of step back in time quite a bit, even though you got modern trucks here and there, you do feel like you're a little bit behind the times up there. There's something different about it. I can't explain it. Montana kind of felt that way a little bit. So what do you guys, here's my question, where do you guys mine in Utah? Do you guys go hiking at night?
Kennecott Copper Mine. No, they have some claims. The club's got some pretty good claims, central Utah, and you still, I don't know if they still have the one up in Idaho?
We do.
Okay, so they've got some up by Idaho City, above Boise. They've also got some in central Utah.
Really? Okay, I've been up there at Idaho City. That was a weird place.
It's a cool town.
It is. They have the dredge go right through and build the town on top of the tailings. I mean, my God. Yeah.
And it's funny how they actually use all those dredge tailings to decorate their yards with now.
They do. When we went there, we filmed in Idaho City, and it was like they were trying to keep us there. We couldn't find any gold worth mining though. I think the old timers hit it pretty good.
The dredges did pretty good.
And those bucket line dredges that went through those valleys, they picked up a lot.
They sure did. I mean, I can tell you this, the one, you guys remember Lynch Creek, right? That was on giving crap about that. But the bucket line, well, they had a drag line. So they drag and flurried this bucket around and they threw it up on top. But the problem was, I knew that thing was inefficient. There is a operation that's rocking sand down there. They don't talk about it, but I know they're still getting nuggets out of that place. But those old dredges, if you work the tailings behind them, you can do pretty well.
I hit it pretty good in Idaho City. I got a spot up there that I was prospecting that was unclaimed, so open Forest Service area. And I happened to hit a nice little picker right on the side of bedrock, and the bedrock and the cobble was exposed, so I mean, I didn't have to dig. I just went over and literally just stuck the gold pan up in the side of the sand, and up she came. And so I just started, right there in the root system, so I just started going to town on, pulling in buckets and taking it back to Salt Lake, because I don't have time to sit there all day in the river and one shovel load at a time, so I'm just gonna fill the buckets and head back to Salt Lake with it, and that was a good time.
So you just filled up Home Depot buckets and loaded up your truck?
Yeah, I got a set of Home Depot buckets and my sifter, and I do all my homemade sifters. I'll stop the dollar store, I'll stop the Desert Industries thrift shop and pick up all their old ladies cooking gear, and sit there with all the colanders and everything, and all the different size colanders, and I'll try to get, because our gold even in Idaho isn't that impressive as far as size is concerned. So if you hit a picker size, It's smaller than your, you know, pinky nail still, but it's, it was still a good, nice size, catch my interest enough to be able to wanna break out all the buckets and get into it, so.
Well, so you're not alone in doing that. I've taken my truck down up to a spot and I've loaded up 25 buckets and didn't screen any of it. That gold fever pretty bad years ago. Yeah.
Bring it back.
Huh?
You just bring it all back home and run it at home when it's loose?
So I'd run in the backyard and I started destroying our backyard. My wife and I would run it. And then I started taking it from a load mine where it was like this yellow slurry coming out. Then it really started wrecking our backyard. And then, yeah, but I swear to God, I had gold fever. It was like crazy. I would literally race up there. We found this one spot off the offshoot of Links. It's called Rose Creek. And it was really, really pretty gold. I was so addicted to it. And so I loaded up, what I have, like a 2003 Cummins Turbo long bed. So I loaded the whole thing up with Home Depot buckets. And then I used the city black trash cans. You guys want to see some cool shit?
Yeah.
That's a bug snapper right there in our living room.
You have the blur on.
I have the what on? Oh.
Where's blur in the background?
Oh, so I didn't even do that. You do that? How do you do that? Oh man, I don't even know how to do all that.
There's a button at the bottom that says effects. I think it's in the effects.
Oh.
Just don't turn yourself into a clown.
Yeah, well, effects. See, I'm on my hillbilly ass. Anyways. See? Yeah. We have a mosquito problem in this damn house. But you know what? I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than going up and getting that first couple shovel folds inside of a new area you want to prospect. And that first pan you do and you start seeing some color, there's nothing better. I love running all the machines. I used to be a heavy equipment operator, a superintendent on like a dirt site. For years, I did a horizontal vertical construction, so I knew a lot about it. And there was a geologist that told me in 2006, he's like, hey, there's gold in that riprap rock. And I'm like, well, how do you get it? So I was like, I took it home and started smashing on my driveway. And I had a home in an HOA neighborhood. My neighbors were kind of like, what the hell are you doing? I didn't know what I was doing. That's how clueless I was. But I grew up in the city of Prescott, which all that stuff you guys saw about Prescott when I did Lost Mines, I fed all that information to Discovery so they understood the history of how Abe Lincoln really sent troops to protect those gold miners. That was a real thing. And I went through all the historical files and found out it was true. A lot of that gold that helped the Civil War, that was all coming out of Prescott. Not so much California, because corporations had a lot of control of that, believe it or not. So that's what he used to fund it, from what I heard. The gold parity is about 92 to 95%.
That's high. Nice and buttery.
It's real clean looking. It's really clean looking. So you guys all go out every single weekend, or you guys just go out like once a month to the digs?
During the summer, you guys have monthly digs, right?
Yeah. Hopefully, and everybody goes out.
Yeah. Oh, so we're running out of time, Casey.
Okay.
But I wanted to tell you,
Thanks a lot. Casey's a good friend.
thank you for coming and talking to everybody tonight.
Tell Dean Wyatt hi from us.
My beard off because I'll start to look like Father Time.
I feel you. I'm going gray.
Yeah, that's the way it happens, boys. Look, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys will have a great time out there finding some gold for you and your families.
So let me show you the whole group here so you can see who you were talking to tonight. Got a pretty good group out here.
Dr. Ryan knows how to get a hold of me. I'm always open to questions. If I don't respond back, it's probably because I don't pay a lot of attention to social media, but I always will write back. Just say you talk to me on that whole thing. I can tell you wherever you wanna go, if you come down to Arizona, I will tell you guys where you can go. It's free for you if you wanna come down here and prospect. A lot of it is in the Lynx Creek area, and it is free for you guys to come down. You don't have to have a claim if you wanna try something different in Arizona. And it's a lot of fun. It's in the forest, believe it or not. It's not rattlesnakes and cactus. And it's about 6,000 feet elevation. So more than once, if you really wanna try something different, there's stuff down here to do.
What was the name of that creek?
So,
What was the name of that creek?
Lynx Creek.
There you go.
And it's way above from where we mined it on TV. So where we mined it on TV is a 5,000 feet elevation headed towards the desert of Phoenix. But where you can go for free is right up in the forest of the headwaters, pretty much at the source of where the gold came from. That's in the forest, and it's legal to go in there with a pan and shovel and have a good time.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hey Casey, thanks a lot again for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was the end of both of our presentation, I guess. Does anybody have any other questions? I kind of went over my part fast because Casey, I didn't know exactly when he was gonna be able to come in. And do you guys have any other questions about different types of prospecting? Something I didn't go over?
Say one word about the source, lode mining, hard rock mining.
Yeah, I've done both. Hard rock mining's tough. Yeah, it's nice because you're underground. It's nice and cool down there. You don't have to worry about the sun. But breaking rocks apart, that's hard work.
Yeah, especially old timers method.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's hard. I had a friend who's part of the Mojave Underground, and we went in the mines behind Kennecott, and we were on the ore loads that were the copper ore. We were specifically in there looking for galena, and then we got into some places where they had azurite and malachite, and I've got buckets. My wife has to deal with buckets of blue rocks around the house. But we actually found veins. I mean, we were pulling veins out of the walls down there, and it's a little scary when you're working in a space that you have one big slab of rock above you, and it's only about 36 inches, so you're laying on your back most of the time, and you're there with a pick and a mini sledge, and you're beating rock just hoping the stuff above you doesn't fall on you and squash you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing some Crespo mining out here in central Utah, and I got an underground claim there that you have to have permission from the town geologist to visit. And he took me in there to show it to me, and he goes, the only time you come in here is if I'm with you. And I said, okay. And he said, I like to be able to show you where it's safe and where it's not safe. And I said, okay. He was going to be pulling the spider hole shut, and that was the end of things. And you could turn on your lamp, and okay. And other than that, we were lost, and he dragged me all the way through.
Oh yeah.
That was one of the most intense experiences, all the way down to where I'm laying on the ground, and I could feel the back of the rock wall on the top of me pushing in the back of my helmet, and I'm still trying to crawl, and holy shit, this is just insanity. Yeah. I could imagine being some of those old timers calling in and out of there with the backpack on, coming in with the pickaxe and working 14-hour shifts in there. I mean,
Oh yeah.
insane.
Well, when my friend took me in that mine that we were on the backside of Kennecott, he told me to bring a hard hat. I'm like, dude, I have a headlamp. I can walk around in there and see everything. I had my hard hat on. My neck hurt so bad when I came out of there from hitting my head so many times. And I was like, I'm glad he told me to bring my hard hat. That would have been a mess by the time I got out of there, blood dripping.
Do you need any of that ore refined copper to get you?
I like my blue rocks. They're pretty. I got some as big as I could only haul out a couple, but I had some that were boulder sized.
Do you need them sliced and polished?
I did. And I've got some that are just nice little specimens sitting up on my shelves at home and stuff. Really good stuff.
More? I've got a whole bucket load at home.
So have you ever heard of what they call a whiz bang or a blast dredge? They're real popular in a place called Roaring Camp in California.
Okay.
Basically, it's a suction nozzle where the water's going in at the nozzle.
Oh yeah.
You then have a blast, you can blast water, or you have a hose, and you're washing it into that. You're not underwater, you're up on a bank, working the bank back into the suction side.
So it's like the Venturi system or the
Right.
instead of the
You're
jet
basically
jet
sucking out of a hole.
Yeah.
Up on a bank, back to your box, and then that's going out.
I've never done that, but we kind of did the same type of thing. So we had the Venturi type nozzle where it pulls the water from the front, sucks it in. And we had somebody with another pump that was basically almost like they're just washing the sides down and in front of where we were at to keep the flow coming. So we've done it, but it wasn't all of them together.
Running those in roaring camp, I went to the combined, we were doing a common operation. And in a 4-hour shift that we were running as a 3-guy team on a 3-inch nozzle doing that, we were pulling out 4 grams, so a gram an hour.
Nice.
It's good ground to start with, but the amount of material you can move because you're breaking apart rocks and pulling up what's under the bedrock on a vertical stream. So you've got a stream coming down straight out of the mountain, and so you're able to pull, you're working right at the bedrock, not having to be under.
Yeah, because if you're in the bottom of a river, a lot of that's loose gravel. And you'll hit hard pack areas, and that's when it really slows you down. If you start hitting clay layers.
We're using bars to pry open the bedrock and get down the cracks.
Yep.
You have to have a scuba license to dredge. You're talking about diving and all that. I always see the guys on it, I use snorkel diving, and even when I'm snorkel detecting, I have a difficult time just snorkeling. So I don't know, are you required to have on a scuba mask in order to do the dredging?
You would, because when you get down 12 feet, you can't keep coming up to the top and back down. So I don't even use the full face mask like a lot of people use. I just have the hookah system. I have a hookah in my mouth, and I've got my scuba mask on. And you put on 20, 30, 40 pounds of weight, depending on what size wetsuit. But up where you're at, you're right below where the snow's melting. So we had 7mm suits, 7mm gloves, 7mm hoods, 7mm booties. And with 7mm, once you start getting down deep and you don't have sunlight on you anymore, it gets cold even with 7mm on. And the last thing you want to do is keep coming to the surface. Because if you come to the surface, that means you're not mining.
So you have to have a PADI certification to dredge?
You don't. If you're on a hookah, it's only when you actually put compressed air on and go down. Then you're supposed to be PADI certified. Now, I have both, but we had a friend and I don't think he's here. He's not. So I can talk about it. So he's snorkeled before, and we took him out there, and he's like, oh, I can snorkel, I can go out there and dredge. He went down under with his hook on, and we were only 3 or 4 feet. His feet were still out of the water. Back to the surface. I can't breathe down there. I can't breathe. Because as you go down in the water, the deeper you go, the more pressure you have on you. And people don't understand, even though you have air coming to you, you still have to pull the air. You don't just breathe like normal. You have to every time you're pulling the air into your lungs. And he panicked a little bit because it wasn't like normal breathing. Because if you have a snorkel on, you can breathe like normal, just because there's no pressure. And once you put the hook in, now it's pressurized, and you have to pull it out of the actual mouthpiece. And if you ever bite on the mouthpiece too hard, you get water coming in, or you move too fast, or go to push something around, your mask fills up a little bit and get down your nose. People who don't have a lot of time underwater, they panic. If you start sucking water down your nose, it goes into your lungs a little bit, they don't understand, just hold on to your mask and cough through your mask. Or if you're sick, throw up through your mask. And then put your tongue in there and push the purge everything back out, and you need to breathe. A lot of people spit it out and go straight for the surface as they're trying to get their weight belt off. 7mm gloves, sometimes it's not the easiest to find the little latch to get your weight belt off. So I would recommend, if you're going to do any of the underwater stuff, get a little bit of experience in standable water, where you can stand up in 5 feet. Don't go down 10, 15, 20 feet until you figure out how to do it in 5 feet. I think that's about it for me. If there's no more questions, we're done. Tell Phil thanks for inviting me down too. Very nice.